The Mass Effect trilogy is one of the greatest video game franchises of all time. The epic storytelling, characters you cared about, presentation of incomprehensible measures, and gameplay that continue to improve. Fighting Reapers, Collectors, exploring planets, Normandy, Citadel, the crew, Garrus, Tully, Rex, Mordin, Liara, by the goddess! I just love everything about this epic Goliath of a franchise. Not even its notorious conclusion can tarnish its legacy. But when BioWare announced they were making a new Mass Effect with a completely different story for the next generation, I was kind of annoyed. After the ending of Mass Effect 3, and no, I don't mean the controversy of how terrible the original one was, I thought, how are they going to continue the story? My expectations were low to say the least. Casey Hudson, who was creative director of the original trilogy, left BioWare for Microsoft in 2014, and Mac Walters, who wrote Mass Effect 2 and 3, took over the role. Most of the development team was new along with the story and characters. Their first plan was to take more inspiration from games like The Witcher, remove Commander Shepard, and not let the events of the third game affect what happens in this Andromeda initiative. I remember seeing the first trailer of the Nomad in the desert. One trailer after another was being released throughout 2016, but they didn't provide much information. As 2017 arrived, and after playing Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a great game, I was slowly relenting to the idea that BioWare could pull it off. A few weeks before release date, I completely ignored all other news, upcoming footage, critic reviews, and fan complaints to avoid ruining my own thoughts. Despite all this, I still remain skeptical. Just the thought of it being an EA game makes you think it's an accident waiting to happen. But on March 2017, Mass Effect Andromeda was released worldwide for the PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, 5 years after Mass Effect 3.
Whatever our reasons, we take the first steps toward a new future for humanity. Today, we begin to make our dream reality.
Set between Mass Effect 2 and 3 before the Reapers began their full galaxy invasion, the Citadel Council sent over 20,000 people to the Andromeda galaxy to expand their species beyond the Milky Way. Everyone involved in this Andromeda initiative are transported on arcs, and over 600 years later, construction on the Nexus is underway. Scott, or Sarah Ryder, cryogenically wakes up and is immediately given the task of securing Habitat 7 by their father. The events lead him or her to become the next Pathfinder. Ryder finds out that operations have been stranded in space for 14 months after plans to finding an inhabitable planet haven't worked, causing supply shortages and people going rogue. A crew is created along with a ship called the Tempest, and the goal is to find planets to settle on and develop new alien relations. Basically create what currently exists in the Milky Way, only in a new galaxy. Now the first thing you're going to notice, there isn't a single returning character from the trilogy here. You can find a couple of audio messages from Liara to Sony recorded a year before she was found by Commander Shepard.
I am Dr. Liara to Sony, and I've spent several decades researching ancient Protheans.
And there's mention of Conrad Werner. Anyone remember him? And that's about it. But after playing this, you'll wish they all returned. The biggest problem with Mass Effect Andromeda is not the story. In fact, the idea of going to another galaxy so the events of the third game don't matter is ideal. I would have liked to have seen more new alien species, but it's a breath of fresh air. I'll explain further soon. The real problem lies with the characters. Now here's where things get controversial. The dialogue is as bland as a brick wall, and the voice acting, particularly on Scott Ryder and Cora, is cringeworthy.
Your biotics always do that when you're maybe stressed?
I got it. I'm good. I don't normally lose it like that. A huntress should have better control.
The facial animations don't exactly help. It gets a little bit better halfway through the story, especially when they have their own loyalty missions, but to quote Tully, the ship is so empty it's like half the crew is missing.
Do not trust them, Chauvin.
The only ones that stand out are PB and Jarl.
I can always kill you in your sleep.
Good to know.
It's going to be all right. Trust me, okay?
Every single crew member in the original trilogy was likable in some way, and you'll find yourself ranking which ones are your favorite. That's how memorable they are. Don't get me wrong, the Tempest crew do their jobs well in combat, but lackluster characters in a Mass Effect game? What a shame.
Okay, this guy is really starting to piss me off.
As for the Ryder twins, I feel like a private being promoted straight to commander. Now even though you choose one of the twins, they both coexist in the story, but their roles change depending on who you pick at the start. At the beginning, a dark cloud interrupts the cryo-awakening of one of the Ryder siblings and is sent into a coma, leaving the other to lead the initiative.
This is so weird.
Paragon and Renegade options are non-existent during dialogue option. The developers believed that it only worked for Commander Shepard, so they tried something new here. The dialogue commands focus more on whether you agree or not, so you have to really concentrate on what people have to say and appeal to their self-interest if you can.
I'd like this to be the beginning of a strong relationship.
Keep your promises, and little by little our bond might grow.
There's an icon in the middle that indicates the type of response, including hard, professional, logical, or casual. It's a good idea, because occasionally you have to make a decision that will affect the outcome of the initiative, and there's no noble or ruthless way through it.
Prioritize research and discovery. That's our foundation. And our future.
Orders prepped.
The optional romance system in Andromeda is a little different. Unlike the trilogy where you had partner options but you had to lock in by conversation and then you know what before your final mission. In Andromeda, Ryder can have relations with multiple crew members, and how long you spend time with your current partner is entirely up to you. Crew members will have different preferences of intimacy and how they react to whether you choose to be with someone else.
I think you're interesting and, well, great. Anyway, I'd like to get to know you better.
After playing as Sarah Ryder first, I noticed a heart symbol with almost every crew member I talked to. I initially thought that everyone can be pursued regardless of gender, but I was wrong. Like I said before, crew members have their own preferences.
Tackling complete strangers in the Milky Way wasn't doing it for you?
I think tackling you anywhere would be fun. Did I say that out loud?
The story was such a blur to me for the first few hours, I thought it'd be impossible to review.
I'm new to this. Being a Pathfinder running a ship?
Whether it's complicated or not, it's hard for me to judge. The least I can say is that a second playthrough made it easier to understand. The idea of searching for a new home in a different galaxy, you wake up to find that the initiative is behind schedule and you have to sort it out. This is a decent plot for a Mass Effect game, but there's not as much happening behind the scenes. The original trilogy had side conflicts like the Genophage, the Geth-Quarian War, and humanity trying to prove their worth along with the fight against Reapers. These events affect your crew personality, and it motivates you to 100% complete each title. In Andromeda, it's more lighthearted, and none of these conflicts, these elements that made the original trilogy so compelling, are present here. You have the Resistance and a couple of new alien species going at it, so at least they tried.
That's some crazy cult shit down there.
It's kind of like playing a prequel to the first Mass Effect when humanity made first contact with the Turians. I'm surprised BioWare didn't consider turning the First Contact War backstory into a game. If any future DLC is announced, with what I've seen, I don't think I'll bother. In short, the story and characters together overall aren't as engaging as the original trilogy, but then how do you follow up on fighting a pro-human organization and something that's trying to harvest an entire galaxy all at once? That is a really hard thing to do.
It's my job to bring us home, and that's what I'm doing. With or without permission.
Haha, that's the spirit.
Speaking of designated scapegoats, there are a few technical issues. After installing Mass Effect Andromeda, an update was instantly available, clearly a red flag. The glitch count isn't ridiculously high, but when something does happen, it's laughable to say the least. But as of this review, these issues aren't game breaking. If it crashes or save files are lost, then there's a serious problem. When you have enormous maps like these, glitches will be present. Even the best of the genre have them. That being said, BioWare have a lot of calibrations to make for any future updates. Some of the music in the original trilogy literally gave me goosebumps every time I heard it, including Vigil, Citadel, and the Suicide Mission. Sadly, Andromeda doesn't carry that kind of symphony. Most of the time, the music is turned down to the point where I check the audio settings out of curiosity. It only builds up whenever a big moment happens, like the intro of The Tempest, or a view that spans miles away. Okay, when you're underground after activating the monoliths, every remnant area looks the same, but there's no doubt the exciting cutscenes, long draw distance, sharpness and scope of all the planets look astonishing. A perfect example of BioWare's creativity.
That's kind. You're kind.
Mass Effect Andromeda uses the Frostbite 3 engine, which has been implemented in recent EA titles, including Dragon Age Inquisition, Star Wars Battlefront, and Battlefield 1. The engine makes it feel like all these franchises are in the same universe or something. This was also one of the first games to showcase 4K resolution on a console, which I really don't care about, but it's available if you got the TV, console, or PC to make it work. If there's one game that keeps popping back into my head whenever I play Andromeda, it's the first Mass Effect. There are only a handful of planets to explore on foot throughout the entire game, but they're huge. You'll be spending at least 3 hours on each one, along with other side missions, character interactivity, and turning into the ultimate Pathfinder. There's so much to do I'll probably be 110 years old before they're complete, but unfortunately it has the same issues too. As we've already discovered, the goal as Pathfinder is to discover planets to colonize and bring back to life while keeping the cat off your back. Some priority and loyalty missions have their own individual levels, but most of the game is set on maps, which is why any mission you have can be toggled. It'll give you waypoints on the map on how to complete it, regardless of where you are in the galaxy. Also, these drop zones allow fast travel points and loadouts, so if you want to come back to a mission later, these features are incredibly handy. But it seems like every single person on a planet has a job for you. That's how much there is to do.
They've got a Pathfinder again. This is what we do.
Choosing a planet during navigation is slow, and I mean really slow. In all 3 Mass Effect games, it took about half a minute to get from one system to another. Here, it takes just as long to travel from one planet to another. And when you consider how long it takes to beat, I don't understand it. Though traveling through systems in first person is pretty cool. The loyalty missions, which make a return from the second game, are more subtle, and they don't affect the final outcome of the ending. But they do give you valuable experience points, the loyalty of your crew member, obviously, and I'm assuming a better chance at romance. They're all done in little chunks, like whenever you complete a priority quest, one of the loyalty missions can be accessed. Jumping mechanics are a bit clunky at first. You have a mini jetpack for a high jump and a boost to get you out of dangerous situations. You also realize that combining the two can make you move faster than running. Aside from that, the controls are really good, definitely an improvement over the predecessors. You don't press a button to take cover, powers are permanently used with the press of a button. Shooting enemies is fun, and they're not illogically stupid like most shooters. Traditional JRPGs have you exploring a huge world, finding items, and occasionally going into random battles against your own will. That style of gameplay is here in Mass Effect Andromeda, only it's fully real time and the battles are third-person shooter enemy waves. And once they're all defeated, that's when you earn the experience points. Meanwhile, some planets have a hazardous atmosphere and you need to reach a safe zone every once in a while. It's actually cleverly designed when you think about it. Instead of selecting a class at the beginning, you slowly grow as you level up. So technically you can be a biotic, tech, and soldier combined, but you can only reach a certain level, so pick wisely. The stat system is loosely based on the third game with a few levels and category for each one, only the amount of powers to choose from is much more diverse. The good thing about this is that you have a chance to decide your class while you're playing and what fits your style. Although you're using your weapons more often than your powers at the start, so it's likely you want to be a soldier anyway. The powers I've used the most are Overload, Incinerate, and Concussive Shot. I like that the Concussive Shot can gel with the tech powers. You also have a scanning system for gathering info, kind of like Metroid Prime. Not only does it provide knowledge, but also earns you research points which can be used to unlock new weapons, so be prepared to scan whatever you can scrounge. Another way to improve your stats and supply are Andromeda viability points, which are earned from finding key spots on planets. The more you explore, the more support you get from the Nexus. Speaking of support, you're given a vehicle on the second planet called the Nomad. Driving it is, well, the steering might as well be controlled with the D-pad because it's almost all or nothing, but it drives a lot better than the Mako in the first game. Instead of using the analog sticks for braking and acceleration, you're using the triggers. For the PC, I don't know.
Heads up, remnant site ahead.
The Nomad is also customizable. The lack of a turn is disappointing, but as standard, it can mine resources the same way the Normandy could in the second game. Only it can be done if you just happen to run into a mineral area while completing quests on that planet. You just glance at the top left of the screen the same way you'd glance at the mirrors of a car.
Pathfinder, this area can be mined for resources. You can extract minerals via your mining interface.
Mass Effect Andromeda is basically a Dragon Age Inquisition set in a science fiction universe with guns and Mass Effect species, with the way objectives work, the map system and the dialogue options becoming more grey than black and white. Of all the Mass Effect games I've played, this took the longest to beat. Achievement hunters are going to have a field day here. But it gets to the point where there's too much content. I get it, it's an RPG and high levels of item variety equals strategy and replay value, but you're only going to use about 4% of what you find the whole time, making most of it unnecessary and a waste of space. Oh, and there's a limit to how much you can carry, but at least it's not as tedious as the first game where you have to delete one upgrade at a time, scroll back down, delete one, and so forth. You will be spending most of your time on the planet shooting bad guys and creating an inhabitable galaxy. Strange as it sounds, despite its underwhelming story, I never stopped playing Mass Effect Andromeda out of boredom. I actually like this game, all things considered.
Sounds stupid, and kind of dangerous.
Like I said at the beginning, I didn't buy into all the hype. I never expected anything on par with the original trilogy. I look at Mass Effect Andromeda as a high-profile spin-off or prologue for a massive upcoming series or something. Probably one of the most polarizing games in recent memory.
Okay, I guess I understand your skepticism.
With its wide range of RPG features, surprisingly fun gameplay, huge maps, and stunning graphics in a new galaxy that takes forever to explore, it hits all the correct buttons, except for character development.
This is what it's all about, right? New worlds? New aliens?
But because character development is one of BioWare's signature strengths in all their games, you expect fantastic characters from this developer. The fact that it wasn't executed properly, you don't feel as invested in the whole thing. BioWare should have given it another year or half year to work on the script, or gotten writers from the original trilogy to work as small advisors, because the writers of Andromeda were given a task that was simply too big.
We were all expecting a golden world. Now there's just a long road ahead. But hold on to that dream. It might see us through.
But despite being very likely to end up on top 10s for not just disappointments of 2017 but the decade, I have no regrets on pre-ordering Mass Effect Andromeda. I got enjoyment out of reviewing it and the story began to pick up halfway through. The potential is there. If BioWare want to make a sequel, they'll have quite a task on their hands. But then again, look how much Mass Effect 2 improved from the first. And BioWare and Nova taking in user feedback. Anything's possible.